What's going on, everybody? It's David P. Just wanted to come and share with you this amazing word that I got from the Lord, and it was revelatory for me because I personally love sowing into people's lives. I love giving money. I love giving things, giving time. I think it's the most honorable act that you could possibly do is give of yourself to someone else, to help someone else in need when you have it to give. And I was asking the Lord, what happens when you give and you don't receive? Because that's contradictory to Luke 6:38, and what it says, give and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, overflowing. That's what it says, give and it shall be given unto you. Right. So what happens when you give of your wealth? Because we're going to talking about wealth. What happens when you give of your wealth in a pocket full of holes? So there were a few scriptures that I was looking at, and I want to give you 3 simple principles that will help you identify whether or not you're giving and there are holes in your pocket, because the holes that are there may be designed for you to get them sewn up so that you could ultimately fulfill the call of God in your life. Let's go into it. Luke 6:38 says, give and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together. All right. So we know that when you give of a giving heart, that God is going to give back to you. It's a principle, scriptural principle. But Haggai 1 is talking about that you sow much, you give much, you do so much, and yet you don't receive. The prophet is speaking to all of the country, saying, look, you're doing all of these great and magnificent and wonderful things for other people in the church, but yet you're not receiving anything. So we need to consider his ways. He says, because my house has been left in ruin. This is God speaking to him, saying, my house has been left in ruins. You guys are building your own altars. You're building your own temples. You're building your own houses. You're worrying about your life. But yet you're not worrying about the set man. You're not worrying about the church itself. You're not worried about whether the lights are on, whether the pastor's being paid or not. That's a big issue sometimes. You know, that you're worrying about things that you have no business worrying about. How about we just bring it in layman's terms? So see, that's an immature thinking, because any man who goes and puts money in the offering plate is not necessarily giving to man, but they're giving with their heart to God. God don't need your money. So if you start to look at, where your heart is at, it will be an indicator of how much you're going to get back. Because the widow who gave a mite, and a mite was like half a cent, all right? Jesus says that she gave the most in all the land. And I find that really interesting, because considering under the law and under the stories that were told of David gave over $3 billion to the temple of God and the building of it, so Solomon can build it. So if this widow's mite, this half a penny, was worth more to God and all of heaven than this $1 billion, then we know it has nothing to do with actual monetary value or what you actually put in your offering plate. It has to do with your heart. Okay, let's go to here. James goes and says that, you know what, you ask and you ask amiss because your heart is not right. Is that your heart is undefiled. So we have to go and check your heart. So, your heart is a big indicator on why you're not receiving things. And we know that James 5:3 goes and talks about that the moth-eaten currencies and values and money and wealth that has come to these unrighteous people are being stored up in the last days. And the last days for who? For the righteous. It's looking for people to do great things. All right? We as kingdom ambassadors need to be ready to have monetary values in our hands as wealth distributors to pass out to what the apostles did in Acts, distributing to everywhere that it needed to be. The widows, the elderly, the church. You know what? While I'm on the subject of tithing and offering, because we're talking about offering, giving, okay? Malachi goes and says that the reason why there was a curse was because you were robbing God of his tithes and offerings. And he says, well, where have you robbed God of our tithes and offerings? And basically, you rob him when you don't give to the church. You rob the tithes is for the church. The tithe is for the priest. The offering is for the functionality of the actual edifice, the building. So I want to clear that up. I'm going to talk about that sometime, but let me go on. Ready? here's the next thing. In order for God to go and increase you and bring you an abundance of wealth, you have to, one, have a heart that's going to be a heart for God. You have to be a distributor where you're going to give it to the right people and put it and allocate it to the right people who are going to do the kingdom work. Because wealth is not for yourself, it's for the kingdom. All right, Deuteronomy 10 talks about that. And this was my big revelation when he said this. Galatians 4:1 and 3. And I'm actually going to read that. Okay, 4:1 and 3. And what I'm saying, that as long as an heir is underage, he is no different from a slave, although he owns the whole estate. Okay, and the heir is subject to the guardians and the trustees until the time set by his father. See, there's a season when wealth comes in your hands. And what we need to do is we need to become mature men and women of God, so that when the season comes, we are ready to hold on to that wealth. My God. All right. So, you know what? A giving heart, become a distributor, and await your season. All right. And while you're waiting, become mature sons and daughters of God. All of creation, according to Romans 8, is waiting for the manifestations of sons of God. I have written on this link, I've written much more about it. If you really want to get into it, click the link below, read on my blog. If you like it, subscribe. If you really love it, please share it. We would appreciate you. And don't forget that your destiny, all right, that your passion leads you to your destiny. Take care, guys.